Friends, we are talking all about rabies, and I pronounce it this way because of an experience that I shared with you in my previous video. And I see that many of you are pronouncing it that way as well. And the things that I want to review with you, number one, is this fact. All right. And this is the same thing for any cocktail that gets injected into your body. How in the world can this ever be proven to work? So follow with me in the logic and then draw your conclusion, all right? And we're going to apply this also for your animals. And then we'll talk about, we'll review a couple of the things that we talked about yesterday, but then I want to show you who is pushing this, what is in the shot, what the side effects are of this shot. And again, there is one very, very most important thing that you need to do with your dog and cat to keep your animal safe. And I'll say that at the end. But first, let's do this. All right, you've got your animals that you want to keep safe and healthy. I showed you evidence that the rabies in the United States is basically eradicated, if it even exists. All right, so you know and I know that this idea of the V word, of these invisible non-life forms somehow procreate with your own cells and then hijack your cells and become a disease. That's what we're told in the theory, and a very weak theory at that, of virology. All right, and because it's a theory, it means it's never been proven as fact. So, but let's just go along for a moment and pretend that this molecule, this V word, this non-life material has been isolated and found. And I'm going to show you some evidence to back up my statements as to how it's never been found. But let's just play along with their scenario for a moment. And let's use something else. Let's use measles. I don't even know if I can say that word on this channel. But let's say that a child gets the cocktail injection for measles and doesn't get measles. How do you prove that the reason why the child didn't get measles was from the cocktail? I'll give you a hint. You can't. Let's talk about the flu, shall we? You know, there are a lot of flu mongers around, and they will say that these shots are, I don't know, pick a number, 30% effective. That's sometimes what they say, 30%, 40%, 50%. How do they determine that number? It's a mystery, isn't it? Because if they take two people, one that got the cocktail and one that didn't, and both of them remained free of the illness, how do you prove it? How do you prove that this person didn't get the flu because they were injected, because this person wasn't injected and didn't get the flu? Take myself, for example. I don't go for any of those cocktails, and I haven't gotten the flu in forever. So how can you prove that the person who got the cocktail, that's what prevented them from getting the flu? How do you prove it? You can't. Then they say, well, if you get the cocktail and you get the flu anyway, it's a much milder case. How do you prove that? How do you know that that person would have gotten a more severe case? How do you know that they wouldn't have gotten sick at all? It's possible that they wouldn't have gotten sick at all if they had never been injected. It is possible. You can't prove it. So all of these statistics that are being promoted can't be proven. There's no proof for it. There's no evidence. Proof is conclusive evidence. There's no conclusive evidence. These are best guesses, and they're not very best at that. So having your animal be injected for rabies, and then your animal lives its life and never gets rabies, the manufacturers will point to that and say, it works. Well, what if rabies was already eradicated? Again, we're setting aside the whole idea that it doesn't really exist. How do you prove that? You can't. Based on the actual information that the CDC, and I used the country of France because that's who invented rabies and invented the rabies vaccine, They have, in France, they even said there's never been a case since 1924. Well, if there's never been a case since 1924, why in the world would you need to keep injecting your animal? And in the United States, I've seen varying statistics from the 70s and the 80s, even previous to that. Why would you need to get your animal injected? Well, see, it works. It works because there's no rabies. You can't prove it. So that's number one that I just want to put on the table. None of these statistics can be validated. It's not possible. So that is all just something that's being promoted. And let's see who's doing the promotion, shall we? All right, let's go hop on over. And I want to show you this fellow. I just did a search on Giggle because I want to see what everybody else is seeing. And let's take a look at the CEO of that company that starts with the letter PF. And he's a veterinarian. Isn't that interesting? So here we are. CEO and veterinarian Albert Bourla gave the speaker for the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine's graduate class. He is a Greek American and he is a veterinarian. Now, you know, and I know that most people are not very fond of the company that he is the CEO of. This company used to be, let's see, I want to read this to you in just a moment, but let me take you on over. This is called Zoetis, I guess is the name of it. This used to be owned by the P company, all right? They spun it off and it is independently owned now. But prior to this, let's say about 10 years ago, they were very heavily involved. This company was very heavily involved in creating the rabies vaccine. And they actually donated 50,000 doses to animal shelter organizations. Gee, let's keep that. We have genocide for people. What is it for animals? Animalcide? Somebody give me a good name for that. It escapes me at the moment. So although 9 out of 10 cases are found in wildlife, the disease exists in every community. How do they know that? Here we are. The P word, Animal Health, a business unit of the P word, is a world leader in the discovery, development, and manufacture of innovative animal health, V word, medicines, diagnostic products, and genetic tests. The reason why I say, how do they know that it exists in every community? Now, I did a little digging here to find out exactly the diagnostic tests that they do to determine that an animal has rabies. And what they do, first of all, is they kill the animal. Yeah, so they start with that. They start by killing the animal. And then after that, they do a brain tissue sampling. And they want to see if it contains certain components that could be consistent with rabies, but you know what, it's not 100%. So let's take a look over here, shall we? And I'm going to show you what I found at the CDC. Yes, this is very interesting, and it's a bunch of hogwash. So I'm going to share my screen again. We'll hop on over here. And the general histopathology for rabies, there we go. It's occasionally useful. When brain tissue from rabies-infected animals are stained with this stain, evidence may be recognized by a trained microscopist, somebody who can read what they see there. This method is non-specific and not considered diagnostic for rabies. So they're just telling you that it actually doesn't even work. It says that it could possibly be rabies, but it might not be. I'll leave a link for if you want to read this. That's basically what they're saying here. It shows that clinically rabid animals show it in about 50% of the samples. It's just stunning, friends. So this mystery disease that they say is so deadly that your animal needs to be injected against it when they are 3 months old, and then a year later, and then every 3 years after that. So does it work or does it not work? I'm confused here. It says that when you start injecting your animal at the age of 3 months, then let's see, it will, okay, here we go. Let's take a look over here, shall we? It's just stunning. It's so just despicable to me. You get dose number 1, 12 to 16 weeks. It stimulates the immune system to make antibodies. Well, I guess it doesn't do a very good job of it. And then you get a second single dose a year later, regardless of the age of the dog. Why? And then, and it's for dogs and cats. And then every 3 years thereafter. Why? Why? One of my lovely Healthy Americans on the previous video said to make sure that you look at it's all done by states, make sure that you look at your state's requirements. Usually the rabies is required to get a license for your animal, but it's actually not required by the state. And even if it is, I gave you some examples on how to sidestep that. Often when you get your animal from an animal shelter, a county shelter, or even, possibly not a local animal rescue, that's where you might want to try it instead, because the county animal shelters and the city animal shelters definitely are going to give your animal all the shots. Now, I'm not speaking about all the other shots, but personally, I'm not interested in doing any of those for my animals. When I was younger, when I had animals previously, I didn't really know about that. I thought I was doing the right thing. A lot of my animals did come from animal shelters and they already had their series of shots. Oh, did they get their shots? Did the animals get the shots? Have they had their shots? We just use that phrase as though it's just common without even realizing what happens to the animal. So that's what we're going to do next. So I want to give you a little bit of a warning. Next, we're going to be looking at some of the side effects after an animal is injected for rabies. So this may be where you want to stop watching the video. I never like to get graphic or anything on my videos, but if you have had an animal that has suffered, I don't want to stir anything up for you. My heart and my prayers are with you. And so many of you wrote and said that you are never going to do that again. But for those of you that are not sure, or you're scratching your head saying, Peggy, this is ridiculous. You're not a veterinarian. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, let's see what veterinarians have to say about it, shall we? I'm going to take you over first to the side effects, and then we'll look at a holistic vet and what they say about it. So let me get this all queued up for you. And this information came to me by way of a Healthy American that said you have to look up what's called rabies miasm in dogs. And that's where we're going to go right now. But it says, understanding the link between individual chronic disease and the rabies shot involves what homeopathic physician Samuel Hahnemann calls a miasm, or miasm. I don't know the pronunciation. It's an underlying disease, like the part of an iceberg lurking beneath the water's surface. You can see and deal with the tip of the iceberg, in this case, individual disease symptoms, but the iceberg's essence is submerged. So let's just see. He says, what I've seen happen is after the shots, dogs develop what we call the rabies miasm, where they become more aggressive, more likely to bite, more nervous and suspicious. They may also have a tendency to run away, to wander, and also sometimes to have excess saliva and to tear things up. It's not that they have rabies, but they seem to express some symptoms of the disease from exposure to the shot. So here we go. And it says that it's much more common than you might think. Friends, what I'll do is I will leave you the link, and then I know it's a little bit difficult to read on screen, so I will read these to you, and then I'll leave the link in case you want to look at that as well. So hypersensitivity of all senses, right? They don't like to be touched. They don't like their ears to be touched. They are afraid of sounds. Maybe touching something on the floor, they get afraid. Rage, agitation, violence, ferocity, sudden attacks, unprovoked attacks, irrational fears, timidity, suspicions. Many of you told me that your animals were fine before they got these shots. Inappropriate responses to water, obsessive compulsive behaviors, tail chasing, fly biting, chasing balls, excessive focal licking. And I know some of my friends have animals and they have these symptoms. Luckily, my Teddy is pretty good. She doesn't have any of these. She is a little sensitive to sound. Sensitivity to close places, or overreaction to noise, frequent or spasmodic sneezing, spasms in the jaw, choking, gagging, or coughing while swallowing liquids, reverse sneezing, they're having laryngeal spasms, involuntary urination. Anyway, there are a few more that I will leave for you to look at on your own. Aimless wandering, vocalization. So what's remarkable, this doctor says, is that it almost sounds like they almost have this, fake, phony, fraudulent disease, this illness. It's a chronic disease that develops over time, but the manifestations can be subtle. It can take months or years to develop. And it's anyway, I will leave a link for you here. So it's not just that your dog is getting the shot for something that, like, why do they need to get it? But look at all of the side effects that could result. We had our lovely Valerie, who was a moderator on the channel, was a vet tech, and she said that she would see lumps and things and cancers develop at the site of the injection. So that's just horrible to know. This website that I'm going to give you will give you some homeopathic remedies if your dog is suffering from some of those things. All right, the other thing I wanted to show you, many of you were asking me what is in that concoction, what actually, all right, here we go. Let me show, I'm going to just read you this screen as well. It says that there's also something called pseudo rabies that can mimic rabies, kind of like what I was reading to you there. And the aggressive behavior, the restlessness, the lack of appetite, that actually can come from the shot itself. And then these animal clinics that I'm researching are saying, since no treatment is successful, the affected animals must be euthanized. So I could not find a good website telling me exactly what is in these shots. If anybody here, let me show you what I found you. And if anybody can find more about that, please let me know. You can always email support@thehealthyamerican.org. So take a look at this. These are the approved shots. We've got Merck has several, another one, Mariel, and it just says that it is a killed source of the virus. Why would you want that injected into your animal? I have no idea why that is. I could not find out what was in there. Yeah, here we are. The Rabies Aware Initiative. I want to talk about a couple other things. Why are they doing this? Wouldn't it be sad if they were trying to, well, some people told me, you know, and I may have some vets on the channel here, so I'm not lumping you all into one group, but some of my Healthy Americans pointed out that the vets purchase these ingredients for about $2. And they sell them for anywhere $30, $40, $50, $60, depending where you go. And then many of the animal clinics do these free shot clinics or low-cost shot clinics. Why are they pushing this so much if it's not even present in our everyday? That would be like everybody now getting an injection for smallpox. It's like, if it ever existed, it's been eradicated. So why would you need the shot? And we're not getting those shots. So why do the animals need this? Wouldn't it be horrible if it caused all of these illnesses and diseases, and then your animal became a lifelong patient at the vet? That's one thing that comes to mind. So I'm not claiming that, I'm offering it as a possibility. Wouldn't it be horrible? I don't know if vets lay awake at night saying, okay, how many animals can I inject so they'll be lifelong patients? I know my vet was not like that. I had a very caring vet. I've had many vets over the years, but wouldn't it be horrible if that was maybe an unintended side effect or an intended side effect, kind of like what they do with people, right? Lifelong patients. What if it was even, I'm not talking about the vets, but I'm talking about the powers that be, the cities, the governments, the states, these, awareness initiatives and all of that. What if they somehow believed that our planet would be better off without companion animals, that our companion animals like dogs and cats, they shouldn't be around? You know how much, if you've had a dog, a cat, a bird, a horse, whatever your animal companion has been, you know how much they enrich our lives, how they help people get through emotional difficulties, how they help people get through physical challenges, right, with our service animals. So imagine a world without our companion animals, how horrible that would be, how our emotional health, our physical health, our psychological, dare I say spiritual health, emotional, mental, all of that would be lessened. Our joy of life would be lessened for those of us that choose to have our lovely animals as our family members. So could it be that that's another psychological targeting of humanity? One of my Healthy Americans suggested that, and I thought that's something that I really want to bring to our attention, because you know that evil attacks from all areas. And I want to leave you with a couple of things, and I want to take a look at your comments. And thank you, everyone. My prayers are with those of you that have suffered, your animals that have suffered at the hands of these unnecessary, unwanted intrusions. And I'm so glad and grateful that going forward, you're going to be thinking about this differently. So I'm going to leave you with two things. Number one, if you have an animal that is a pure blood, you have to be extremely, like absolutely careful that your animal never bites anyone, another animal or a human, because that right there is where they're going to put your dog under quarantine. They could, create some fake, phony, fraudulent diagnosis or symptoms or whatever. So please, I know that you are responsible, but it's just an extra careful thing. Like, I never let my dog go to the dog park. I don't want my dog to be a victim of another aggressive dog. My dog is a part of our pack family. It doesn't need to play with other dogs. It plays with me and my husband and our cat and my sister and, her dog, because it's a trusted animal that we know. I never take my dog to dog parks, period. And if I'm walking down the street and another dog is approaching, I do not let them go nose to nose. Why? What's the point? My dog has plenty of stimulation and companionship and fun and does not need it from another animal. I know you're going to say, I can't believe it, Peggy, I thought you were an animal lover. Well, my way of thinking about animals and how I protect them and how I train them and how they get their socialization, they don't need to be with other strange animals. Their job is to protect me. And so I don't want to be on a walk where my lovely protective Teddy is going to protect me, and then she'll be having her life at risk because of an unforeseen circumstance. So that's just my advice, my unsolicited advice, but I'm giving it because I would hate to think that something like that happened to one of your animals. So that's number one, whether you choose to have your animal get the shots or not. And then the other thing that I want to leave you with is, please watch the other video where I talk a little bit more into detail about this. But it's so hard. It's so hard when we have to say goodbye to our animals. And not only is it painful to say goodbye after they've lived a long life, but it's excruciatingly unbearable when we feel that we could have prevented that loss through these unwanted intrusions, or we took the advice of our vet. And I know of plenty of people that had gotten an animal from the shelter, and then they took their animal to be spayed or neutered, and the animal died on the table or died of side effects. Not every animal needs to be spayed or neutered. There are many ways of preventing these litters. I hate to even use the phrase unwanted, because that again plays into this idea that every animal should be wanted. So I don't like the idea of unwanted litters, unwanted puppies. No, they just need to find a home. Now, I'm certainly not in favor of animals and being bred and, stray animals having litters and all of that. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about a responsible pet lover that has a pet companion that, like my dog, doesn't go to the dog parks, doesn't be with other animals, is with me or in our home or in our yard, does not go in the yard by yourself unaccompanied. So if I had it to do over again, I would not have had her spayed. I don't believe it's the right thing in many cases. So that's another thing that I'm just like, I know my way of thinking about this is completely different. These are perspectives to consider. I have been in animal rescue for, 30 or more years. I used to do educational programs at the county animal shelters in different places. So I'm very aware of the crisis, especially here in California, where, cruelty and neglect and abuse is just, it's unspeakable. Trust me, I know what's going on. But I don't want to, just like I don't want to put all the veterinarians in one bucket, I don't want to put all of the solutions as spay and neuter is the only solution. It's not. Injecting the animals is the only solution. It's not. I want you to do some deeper digging and to find out what's best. And so when we talk about saying goodbye to our animals and saying goodbye under tragic circumstances where there was an accident or a loss or something that you think was preventable, I really want you to know that I feel for you. And the other thing that I wanted to let you know is that when you look at the story of creation as expressed in the Bible, and it says that God created animals before he created mankind, before he created humanity. He filled the earth with animals. And then the creation story tells us that he created Adam, and Adam named all the animals. And I love this because it tells me that mankind's, humanity, human beings' first relationship outside of God on earth was with animals. That's why it is such a deep soul bond. It's so pure. I look at it as a symbol of God's love for us. That is so intense, that is so pure, that is so unbreakable. If you have ever had the great fortune to have loved an animal, to have an animal love you, you know that that is an unbreakable soul bond that is unlike any human relationship. And I believe that that bond continues even after their physical demise. That love endures, and we can focus on that love and feel that love and give that love and receive that love, even if they are no longer physically here. So I implore those of you, like me, that have had past regrets over animal loss, that is so devastating and so traumatizing that it's difficult for you to, I'm never going to say forget, because we never forget, but integrate into your life so that you can acknowledge it and still carry it with you going forward. And please know that all of the Healthy American family support you. We understand what you're going through. We pray for you. And the best thing is you can say, going forward, at least now I know. Going forward, I will do better. Now I have more information. I'm going to do more digging. And that, I believe, will help you acclimate and integrate those so devastatingly painful losses. Trust me, I get it.